What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the W.A.D.E Concepts. And tonight we got a special one, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking spooky hours here at the W.A.D.E Concept. And as you can see, it's taken over everything. Now, before we get each fighter started in here tonight, because yes, I am refereeing, and I always do and always will keep it clean with you guys, I just got to say one thing. I'm so excited that I'm finally getting to live stream not only this, but my reaction to the bad motherfucker bell, baby. I can't help it. I had to say it. That's what it is. That title is on the line this Saturday, and I'm going to be watching with you guys. My set looks so dope. I don't even know if I want to stream it from the Hall Pass Studios. By the way, Hall Pass Studios is hosting my podcast this Friday. I was granted access by the higher-ups at Hall Pass, and they've allowed me to come in and use their studio to stream from, and it's one of the best studios around in this area, and I'll talk more about that on the actual podcast. But, I mean, come on, guys. Look at the setup. Just look at the setup and tell me that this ain't something serious, boy. Come on, son. Kyle's already in the chat. He's screaming 209. There's a lot of Diaz fans around where I'm from, or around where I live anyway. There's a lot of Diaz fans. As you guys know, I live in California. It's going to be a lot of Diaz fans out here. But like I said, we're staying neutral. We're making picks tonight too, guys. So we're gonna I don't know. We're not going to let it out yet, but I think I'm going to surprise some people with who I pick. But before we get into all of that, thank you guys so much for watching the YouTube channel. If you're checking out the VOD after the live stream, then might as well go ahead and you're watching the video already. Make sure you click that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're new. We do these at least once a week. I know my schedule's been all crazy, stuff outside of here, work opportunities, trying to set up this live stream at Hall Pass for this weekend. But if you guys are liking what I'm doing, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, notify bell to let you know anytime I go live or let you know anytime there's a new video up. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you guys a Mario Yamasaki. Thank you. Anyway, guys, Kyle, my boy, everybody that's watching, we have one of the biggest cards, not only of this year, but of one of the biggest in recent memory for the UFC. Not only this weekend, UFC 244, but we get another one in December with 3 title fights on the card. But I almost think this card's better. I almost think that this card is a better card overall. For a couple of reasons. The fighters top to bottom, it's just stacked with killers of big names, huge household names, guys that have been in divisions for a long time that we know, one, but two, we know we're going to come to put on a performance, going to put on that BMF performance. And this whole BMF title has been launched into the next stratosphere as far as the importance of it, right? It just feels like it is something bigger than an actual UFC title, and that's because the BMF title represents guys that are aggressors, guys that want to go out and finish fights, not necessarily guys that are looking to point fight or looking to win rounds rather than win fights, if that makes sense. This prioritizes the BMF. It prioritizes the aggression, the actual fight in a fighter, if that makes sense. And I'm not one of these guys that thinks, stand and bang, or it's not interesting. Like, I love grappling exchanges. I love wrestling. I love watching jiu-jitsu. I love watching all those combined, which is our MMA modern day. But the sport has almost gotten away from that killer instinct that brought it to where it was in the Chuck Liddell era. And people can call that sloppy fighting. People can call that caveman fighting. But there are two people that still embody that mindset, which is to go out and finish fights. And I say two because they are the main event of this card, but there are more than two. There are top to bottom on this card, guys that want to go out and finish fights, but it has seemed to shift in the fight world to control, right? Fight control. How do you control the fight? How do you win rounds? How do you win positions without taking damage? It's mostly a defensive offense, if that makes sense. Your best defense is a good offense. Not getting taken down, not getting hit, not being controlled. Those are prioritizations more so than striking, more so than continuously trying to get a finish. I don't necessarily like the way that works, but good point from Kyle. John Jones is the master of it. John Jones is the master of finding ways to not have something happen. And in recent memory, John Jones has become more aggressive and tried to go out and finish fights. And the Gustafsson fight finished DC as of recently. But you watched in the Thiago Santos fight, and it was more, I'm going to play his game, but not lose, right? It wasn't so much go after the kill, go after that takedown, ground and pound John Jones that we've known and loved. It was more so, I'm going to stick with his game, prove that I can do it, but not get hurt. So I think that's why this BMF has gotten so much more attention. Obviously, the West Coast, East Coast, 305, 209. The Rock's going to be in the building. Dana White's given the title made for this fight, 50 G's. He could have been given to me to get on staff at the UFC, but instead he wanted to make a title belt out of it. I get it. Dana, I'll be seeing you one day. So, you know what I'm saying? Set aside like a 50 G for me for the entire year. I ain't saying for one little belt. I'll take 50 G's for the entire year and come do this for the UFC. Promotional materials included. Anyway, that's the depth of what we're dealing with here with this BMF title. It's top to bottom taking over the UFC. And what's crazy is you're talking about this more than you're talking about not only this huge December end of the year card, which is always a big card for them. Always a huge, huge card for the UFC because usually they'll put 3 title fights on that card. And they did again this year, but this is getting more attention. 2 guys. Not only that, one guy in Nate Diaz took on USADA. And, a lot that's being made about Dana might just have to see me. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of attention is being made about Nate Diaz and how he took on the USADA pool single-handedly, and I don't necessarily know that that's true. While his case is abnormal, and he had some leverage in the situation to say, look, I'm not going to fight on the biggest card you guys are going to have all year. You can stick it, and I'm just not going to show. So you either figure it out now, or you're not going to have that fight. He had that leverage, but he also had the leverage of, and this is something I'm going to quickly go over because we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. Nate Diaz had the leverage of past fighters that had failed in the same way that he had failed for the same derivative. I think it's Ostraine or Ostraine. It's a SARM, and they had failed in the same way he had. So he had 2, 3, 4, I don't even know how many, 5, 6 offenders, big names, Sean O'Malley, Nico Montagna, that had failed the same way that USADA could say, okay, we have to change this rule. At least we have to change the way we implement it. And so while he did have the advantage of, like I said, being a BMF and fighting in one of the biggest cards of the year, he also had previous cases to help with that. And with that being said, he's done a lot for, Nate's always been a guy that's done a ton for fighters. These 2 things, the BMF title and the USADA situation, are 2 things, purposefully or not, he's done to help fighters. These things are going to help fighters moving forward. They're going to see what moves the needle isn't necessarily just talking on a mic. If this moved a needle, and I'm pretty damn good at talking on the mic. If this moved the needle, I'd have more than 3 people in the live stream. Maybe I'm just not entertaining, but what moves the needle is that guys that go out and try to finish fights, guys that go out and put on a show. Not necessarily with the mic, not necessarily with the words. Habib spoke broken English for years. 27-0, smashes Conor McGregor, and now he's one of the biggest stars on the planet. You want to move the needle. You want to get fans. You want to be the big draw. The BMFs know how to do it, and it's going out and knocking somebody the F out. That's how it is. So, says Sean O'Malley's punching air. Straight up, dude. I like Sean, too. I think Sean's such a unique kind of fighter. I know he's a little raw, and we haven't seen him in, it's got to been like a year and a half now. But I think he's such a good, long fighter for 135. I'd like to see him in there soon. I'm a big fan of Sean. I think he's a showman. I think he gets this kind of rub that the UFC has. I think he understands how to gain fans in a short amount of time. So I'm a big fan of Sean. By the way, I got my you know what I'm saying, in case things get a little messy tonight, in case I need to put the Vaseline on, go stitch on y'all, I'm here, all right? So I'm protecting you guys while also protecting the sanctity of the W.A.D.E concept tonight. That's what I'm doing. I'm here refereeing, making sure nobody gets in too close right now. But yeah, this card is insane, guys, and we're getting it this Saturday. It's going to be 7 p.m. Pacific time. Then I'm actually going to be going live way before that. We're doing a full card watch party. We're not doing the main card watch party like we did last week. We are doing the full card watch party, which means we're going from the first fight on the prelims all the way through. And like I said, if you guys like this set, I can't not go to Hall Pass and do it. They are letting me use that studio, so I can't. That's good for business here at the W.A.D.E concept. So I can't do that, but we might keep this way for a little bit. I'm digging the orange lights and the contrast. I'm digging it. So if you're liking it, let me know. Anyway, forget all the bullshit. We're going straight into the card, baby. Yeah, Kyle, we're getting straight into that fight too. Kevin Lee, Gregor Gillespie. What in the hell? How do we get blessed with these kind of fights, man? Oh my God. How do I go to the card? I need to see the full card. Let's go. All right. We're going to start with the early prelims, and even on the early prelims, we have, you know what? No, we're going to skip the early prelims. It's a good card, but it starts the prelims. So these are the prelim fights, guys. These are the prelim fights, and we're picking all of them. So all the fights from Andrei Arlovsky all the way up to the main event, we're picking. So Kyle says, Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie is an insane matchup. Will Kevin's cardio last for 3 solid rounds? Okay. Might as well just go right into it. Kevin Lee, Gregor Gillespie. If you guys don't know, Gregor Gillespie is one of the most feared wrestlers in the lightweight division. And you guys hear me say feared and lightweight a lot in these podcasts. And you know why? Because there's a lot of guys in the lightweight division, and a lot of guys are feared in that division by other fighters inside or outside the top 15, because that division is so damn deep. You have killers at 15 and above that could legitimately contend for a title right now. Gregor Gillespie could legitimately contend with the likes of a Conor McGregor, Tony Ferguson, Khabib Nurmagomedov, especially those last two, just stylistically, right now. And no one knows who he is, because he's not one of these guys that goes out and makes a lot of headlines. He doesn't really finish a ton of fights. He wins in a ferocious forward pace that just constantly stays on you. He very well can finish you, but it's the pace that he puts on guys over a to this point, 3-round period, that he's winning decisive, like 20, he's winning 30-25s, he's winning 30-24s in some cases, 30-26s. He's dominating guys over 3 rounds. And he's surging. He's coming up through, I think he's undefeated. He's coming up through the lightweight division, which is one of the, if not the toughest division in all of MMA. That's Bellator. That's one championship. That's UFC. I think you can make the argument that 155 is one of the toughest, if not the toughest, across all MMA. Kelsey's in the chat. She loves the gloves. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, Kels, I'm here to take care of everybody. Make sure, by the way, you guys can't see it. Oh, you can. Kelsey hit me and got blood on me. I'm just kidding. That was for, Kelsey was an MMA fighter for Halloween, so she had a little blood on her face. Had to dry it up, you know. Hashtag best boyfriend ever. Anyway, could you put the card on screen? If not, that's fine. The card? Like, can I show the actual fight? Nah, can't do it. The card. Nah, yeah. Oh, I got you. You mean right now? Yeah.
this. Boom.
Jesus, I'm a niff. Yo, without Kyle, facts, like straight up, I wouldn't be able to run this podcast. My man, co-producer. Let's go. Anyway, sorry, I'm hyped, guys. Andrei Arlovski, random gentleman. Now that we've got, sounds good, perfect. Big boy. What I was saying was, Andrei Arlovski's nose is always something I think is hilarious because it looks like a horse's hoof that stepped in mud, like the imprint it makes. That's what it reminds me of. Anyway, we're going Andrei Arlovski by, I'm going to say KO because at this point, at the heavyweight division, you're not going to see a lot of decisions, especially with a guy whose hands, like Andrei Arlovski, very good hands, especially lately. He's taken a lot of guys by surprise. And I think that's just because he's such a veteran in the game. He's been around for forever. The guy has, what is that, 20, math, help me here. He has 47 fights, 47 professional fights. And, the experience factor is definitely going to be a huge deal here. Again, don't know tons about my man Big Boy here with no stats on reach or any sort of fight style. I'm just going to have to go with Andre by default. And I'm going to say by TKO. I think he's going to come out. And I think every time he fights, he surprises me with how quick he is and how fast his hands still are at his age. And obviously the man that he's fighting is 8-0 for a reason. I'm assuming at heavyweight, those are going to be some KOs in there. So never a guarantee, but we're going to go with Andrei Arlovski, and we're going to go with a TKO. Moving forward. All right, we have Brad Tavares, Edmund Shabazia. Edmund Shabazia, is that the kid from, where do I know that name from? That's not the kid, no, I don't think that's who I'm thinking of. Anyway, Brad Tavares, a guy that's been around for a long time, tough dude at 185, a guy that's been competitive in pretty much every fight other than the Israel Adesanya fight. Again, not a ton of stats on Edmund here. This is a top 15 fight. Again, one of these fights on this card that's going to get overlooked, but everything from the prelim all the way to the main card, someone could win fight of the night, or two guys can win fight of the night because these matchups are very closely contested. Whereas we had a ton of big names on a couple of the recent cards, the matchups themselves were a little lopsided. These matchups on this card, you're getting fight after fight where guys are really closely contested and really in the same kind of part of their career and part of the division where these fights, they matter not only as far as blockage of divisions, but they matter as far as rises of different guys in that particular division. So at 185, we got news that Paulo Costa's not going to be fighting this February like we had thought against Israel Adesanya. Torn bicep, and your boy knows all about a torn bicep, so he'll be out a little bit. So there's definitely room to move up, especially from guys right outside of that top 10 to get into title contention, especially, again, what's happening at the top of the card in the co-main event later with Darren Till and Kelvin Gastelum. However that goes, you're going to open up a couple of spots to move up for these two guys. And I've watched Brad Tavares fight. Haven't watched Edmund yet. Again, undefeated. Looks like a good prospect. Brad Tavares coming off a loss. I usually don't like to pick guys coming off losses unless I know specifically the matchups and exactly what it is that both fighters are bringing. But just because of my familiarity with Brad Tavares, we're gonna have to go with him, and I'm gonna go with we'll go with decision. I do not know a ton about Edmund, the Golden Boy. Not as well versed as maybe I should be with his fights, but Brad Tavares by decision in the second fight of the night. And by this point, we haven't quite gotten our money's worth for the pay-per-view, but by the time we get to the second fight on the main card, personally, I'd be fine paying $60 for those 5 fights. These are some huge fights in my opinion. Or maybe the third fight in with Stephen Thompson and Vincent Luque. Oh, he's at a Faraz's camp. Okay, that makes sense because we have another Faraz Sahabi guy, obviously, with Kevin Lee on the card. I was wondering, I don't know why, who I thought it was because the name Edmund Tavaria has a kid at 135, in the UFC that's undefeated, I'm pretty sure. And he just got a big win, too, a couple of months ago. I want to say. I'm pretty sure he was like an old sparring partner of Ronda Rousey, and I can't remember his name. But we are going to our next matchup. And again, another big-time matchup. We have Makwan, Amir Khani, which I think this cat's out of SBG. I'm pretty sure this cat is out of SBG with Connor and Coach Kavanaugh. And then you have Shane Burgos, man. Shane Burgos, another guy that huge, exciting fighter. Guy can win from a couple of different areas. He can knock you out. He can submit you. This is going to be an exciting fight. There's a lot of hype behind Makwan. A ton of hype behind this guy. And again, 45, another deep division. Another division that in a month from now is going to have some moving parts because Max Holloway is fighting Alexander Volkanovski. And so, again, Shane Burgos right outside of that top 10 looking to get in there. Some people moving around from 45. Jose Aldo going down. Frankie Edgar going down. There are spots opening up in this division. And for guys that are a little younger, or at least younger in the game like Shane Burgos and Makwan here, you're looking at two guys that are not only looking to get into the top 10, but 2-3 fights, maybe 6 months a year, you could be in the top 5 in this division very quickly because guys are moving up and down, and that division is so fluid. I could see one of the winner of this fight moving into a pretty good position moving forward into early next year. Man, you guys know I'm a huge SBG nut hugger, man. It is what it is. I don't care. I'll claim it. Anybody that fights with Kavanaugh, and Kavanaugh is a big grappling guy, but it's weird. He loves grappling, but trains a ton of great strikers outside of James Gallagher. So I'm going with Makwan here, even though I love the way Shane Burgos fights, and I love the variety he brings to a fight. While he does get hit a little bit, and that's kind of why I'm going with Makwan, because he's got some decent power from the fights I've seen. How's he, by the way, how's he Mr. Finland, but doesn't have a country listed? What the hell is that? Anyway, I'm going with Makwan, and I'm going with, I think he's going to clip Shane. I've seen Shane get hit and clipped before, and I'm thinking that's what's going to happen. I'm going to say Makwan, maybe the early third, because I think this is going to be a barn burner fight. I think Makwan will probably come out in the first and take the first. Shane will come back and take the second. And I think Makwan either takes, it could be either way, back and forth, vice versa, whatever. But I think Makwan comes out in the third and clips Shane and puts him away. So I'm going to say Makwan by TKO in the third. Kyle has Burgos by TKO in the second. And then we move to our finale of the prelims, and holy shit. Johnny Walker, Corey Anderson. Oh my God, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. So these rankings, and you'll always hear this from guys that cover MMA and cover the UFC, that the rankings don't mean anything. That's what you'll hear. And in this case, and especially with the BMF title, it's true, because this could potentially be a number one contenders fight. Now, we talked about Dominic Reyes and how I believe he is the number one contender to John Jones' title. The way he knocked out Chris Weidman, granted Chris Weidman's first fight at 205, but former champion, beat a ton of tough guys. And then Dominic Reyes, not only that, but also beats another title contender in Volkan Ozdemir. Some people didn't think he won that fight, but the judges did, and that's all that really matters. I think he's the number one contender, but there is an argument out there for Corey Anderson and Johnny Walker, the winner of which either fighting another fight to determine the number one contender with Dominic Reyes, or possibly the winner of this fight being the number one contender. And what do we know about each guy? Right? What do we know about Johnny Walker, and what do we know about Corey Anderson? We are talking about polar opposites, right? Johnny Walker, a very flashy, very loose, efficient, powerful, quick, just devastating striker. And that people do sleep on his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is he does have a high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu off of his back. But what do we think of when we think of Corey Anderson? We think of pace. We think of forward pressure. We think of great grappling ability, great wrestling ability, and a non-stop pace. So in those situations, what happens usually? What happens when you get a wrestler that is such a great wrestler and has such great grappling ability and pace, someone that can keep forward pressure on a guy that likes to throw a lot of flashy strikes, a guy that likes to be very explosive that we haven't necessarily seen go into later rounds other than that first and maybe early second round. Well, conventional wisdom would say the guy that's the wrestler, if he can stay out of danger, will win the fight based off of his forward pressure and the ability to get inside of long, rangy, devastating strikes and make it a kind of a dirty, ugly fight that doesn't necessarily have a ton of damage but will win on points. But Johnny Walker is anything but conventional wisdom. This guy is just a walking embodiment of I don't know what's about to happen. Because every time he hits the cage, he hits it dancing like he's I don't know if you guys have seen the video of him dancing. I think he said he was a stripper. If I'm mischaracterizing Johnny Walker, I'm sorry. But I'm pretty sure he himself said he was a stripper in Brazil. So he's the Magic Mike of Brazil. He walks to the cage. He's getting stuff thrown at him. I'm pretty sure some lady hit him with a bra. He's like doing his pole dance as he walks to the cage. The guy doesn't give a shit. He has that type of Israel Adesanya choreographed, like being able to free himself from the nerves in that moment. It shows you what type of fighter he is, and that's unpredictable. You don't know if he's going to hit you with a flying knee as the bell rings or as the round starts. In his last fight, he did that. Or a spinning back fist, or grab you in a Muay Thai clinch and throw an elbow that sounds like a firecracker went off. The guy has everything in the arsenal. He's so loose, and he's so strong at that weight class. He's a big 205er. If you guys watch Friday, when they get on the scales Friday, watch how big this guy is. You know he cuts at least 20 to maybe even 25 pounds. But with that being said, I'm on the Johnny Walker hype train. I am. I think this guy has otherworldly ability, and maybe it's just my want to see someone size and reach-wise. As you guys can see, he has that 82-inch reach, and we know one other guy in that division that has an 82-inch reach, and that's Jon Jones. I want to see that fight, Johnny Walker, Jon Jones, and maybe that's why I'm picking him, but I'm going to go Johnny Walker. I don't want to say devastating KO. I think Johnny shows us something different here. I think Johnny goes out, fights a focused, polished fight without necessarily doing a lot of the crazy things right off the bat. I think he shows us a little bit more of his technique, especially striking. I think and when I say technique, I don't mean that he has bad technique. I think he shows us more of his techniques. And I think he shows more of a conventional striking, at least to start this fight. And I think Johnny wins a decision. I think Johnny Walker, that's right, you heard it here first. Johnny Walker wins a unanimous decision to end out the prelims. And my boy Kyle has Corey Anderson by unanimous. And that's, look, if you're going to Vegas and you're putting money on this fight, it'd be hard-pressed if I was going to part with my money for a matchup not to give it to Corey Anderson. He checks every box as a way to beat Johnny Walker. Get in his face, pressure him, limit the ability for him to have space to get off big shots and get off explosive strikes. Push pace, see how he is in that third round. Lay on top of him. Let him up. Put him back down on his back. Like, those are things that you're going to want to do to get Johnny Walker out of his comfort zone, and Corey Anderson does them all well. So I completely, I can see where you want to pick that fight. And if I'm in Vegas, I'm putting money down on it. That's probably the way I'm going to be honest. But I maybe, again, it's a little bit of a bias. I want to see Johnny Walker fight Jon Jones, and I think he gets it done to Saturday night. Decision for Johnny Walker. Then we move to our main card. Kevin Lee, Gregor Gillespie, as Kyle in the chat was talking about earlier. This is a huge matchup at 155. While you might not know who Gregor Gillespie is, everybody in that division and everybody in the UFC knows this guy is one of the most decorated wrestlers in that division and in the UFC. I think he's an NCAA champion wrestler. Completely dominant in every one of his 13 fights so far. Kevin Lee, a guy that had won 9 out of 10 fights in his UFC run, and then as of recently lost 3 of his last 4. So if that shows you anything, you can be riding high coming into a big-time matchup, and Kevin Lee was against a guy like Tony Ferguson, and get derailed, and all of a sudden 13-0 doesn't really matter anymore. And for a guy like Kevin Lee, people want to talk about, losing 3 of 4. He's lost to some huge, huge names. You're talking about Tony Ferguson, Ally Aquinta, Rafael dos Anjos. These are top 3, top 5 guys in their respective divisions. Not like Kevin Lee is just losing to and not no offense to Gregor, but losing to number 11 and 12 fighters. He is losing against the best in the world. So, and even Kevin admits himself, sometimes the mind frame wasn't there. He wasn't doing the right things in training camp. In the fight, he second-guessed himself, and it was a little bit more mental. And so now he's gone to, some of the perfectly crafted camps that you can make in Virasa Hobby up at TriStar. He's made guys like Kevin Lee, that athletic specimen that Kevin Lee is. George St. Pierre is that same specimen, right? And I think that Kevin couldn't have made a better move going to TriStar. And I think it's really going to show in this camp and in this fight. And while I do respect Gregor Gillespie, and I think that his ability to, again, wrestle and get in the face of Kevin Lee, because Kevin Lee's used to being the more powerful guy. And at the end of the day, if he can't strike with you, which you saw with Ally Aquinta, he will try to shoot and use that strength. And not for nothing, Kevin Lee, and this could have been, more so Tony Ferguson being Tony Ferguson, but Kevin Lee threw Tony Ferguson down on his back and mounted him in the first round of their fight like it was nothing. A confident Kevin Lee coming out of a great camp is a scary guy. And guys, that's why we're going with Kevin Lee. I think he gets it done. I think, I don't necessarily know if this will be a wrestling match per se. I think Gregor will come out very quickly in the first round and get in Kevin's face and make him uncomfortable. But I think this is a turning point for Kevin Lee, and I think this guy's going to be a champion at some point, because I think he finds a way to get over the mental blocks that he has in his fights and get over that, maybe, I don't know if it's self-doubt or whatever it is, and I think he starts to pressure Gregor back, which I don't know if Gregor Gillespie has felt somebody pressure him back and use their wrestling ability on him in his UFC career. So I think Kevin actually takes Gregor down. I think Kevin does some good work in the ground and pound and then cinches in one of his patented rear naked chokes, and I think Kevin Lee wins by submission in the late third or mid-third. I could be completely wrong, and Gregor comes out and does what he does, gets Kevin down, puts him on his back, grinds out another decision where he just dominates. That could very well happen. But I see a different Kevin Lee coming into this fight. Anytime you go up and you work with one of the best in Virasa Hobby and have George St. Pierre in your camp talking about how you don't know how good you are, I think they can bring that out of him. I think they can show him how good he can be. And this is the first step of that, in my opinion. We're going Kevin Lee by submission in either the late second, middle third, and even maybe as we hit the bell in the third round. Next, like I'm saying, guys, just back to back to back bangers. We have My Balls Is Hot. We have Popeye's Chicken eaten. Russian Skyscraper beaten. Derek Lewis in the building. Oh, snap. Kyle said Lee with a knockout, round 1. I see you. Versus Baga Blagoy Ivanov. And we've watched this guy fight recently, I'm pretty sure. On stream, we watched this guy, Baga, fight recently. And he won. But this is the Black Beast we're talking about. And again, not for anything, not for nothing. Derek Lewis looked so much more trim today, even in media days today. And with that being said, I think that Derek Lewis is starting to find ways in his training camp, whatever works for him. You think he's had knee surgery, his back surgery. He's never going to be a conventional fighter. Derek Lewis is never going to be a guy that comes out, sticks you with a jab for a round and a half, starts pointing, gaining points, and winning off of combination strikes and throwing and landing 150 strikes in a fight. It's never going to happen, especially at heavyweight. But Derek Lewis isn't even that type of fighter to begin with. He is a showstopper. He throws jumping switch kicks. He tries to Imanari roll. He does things that he's not necessarily the best at, but he does things to get a reaction. And he lulls you to sleep, and then the big one's coming. The big right hand is coming. I don't want to say he fakes, but even sometimes he'll give the playing possum, oh, I got hit in the stomach, just waiting to land that right hand. Derek Lewis is waiting for a bomb. He is going to throw and land a bomb in his fights. But here's the thing. If Derek Lewis doesn't land a bomb, he doesn't win fights. That's I'm sorry. That's the way it happens. And I'm a huge Derek Lewis fan. Huge Derek Lewis fan. Love the guy. I love that he's become as successful as he's become. And I think his power is some of the, like, people, even myself, give Francis the anointed crown of best power and most powerful striker in the UFC and in MMA. But this guy is right there. I mean, what he did to Alexander Volkov, and that short time period, if you guys didn't see it, you can go check it out. I live streamed that fight, and I actually have the clip. I don't know if it's on Twitter. It's somewhere where I react to specifically that, and it was one of my best reactions on stream ever. I lose my mind because he was losing that fight at UFC 229. He was losing it. He hadn't won any of the first 2 rounds, and in the third round, 4 minutes and 45 seconds. In the last 15 seconds, he lands one right hand, and that's all it took. And at heavyweight, that's all it takes. But I do think the deficiencies in Derek Lewis' game are starting to catch up to him. And Ivanov is going to come forward. I think he's, if I can remember correctly, I think he's a great boxer and a decent grappler. And it's all you really have to be against Derek Lewis is a decent grappler. Be able to, if you get in trouble, clinch him, grapple him, take him, put him on his back. I mean, he got ankle picked by DC off virtually no setup. So it's not like Derek Lewis is comfortable, in grappling situations where he has to defend himself from a takedown. He's just not. So we're going to go with Ivanov by, I'm going to say TKO. I think he gets Derek Lewis in a grappling exchange. I think he takes him down, and I think he wins by ground and pound. We're going to go with TKO in the second round for Ivanov. And that kills me to say it because I'm a big Derek Lewis guy, man. If you think that I'm picking against Derek Lewis because I don't like him, please go back and watch. It's somewhere on my Twitter page. Please go watch that clip because you're out of your mind. I love this guy. I can't be fake to you guys. I gotta pick who I think is gonna win fights. And I'm telling you, this card, I'm coming out with W's only. There's no L's being taken in this card. Straight dubs. And again, guys, next fight, another banger. Like, they just don't stop. Right as you think you get to take a breath. Okay, we're good. And then, boom, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and Vincent Luque come up on the screen. And you're talking about two guys that are kickboxing and striking supreme. Vincent Luque, Dutch kickboxer, phenomenal striker. I think he's won 6 in a row and knocked in devastating fashion. Knocked Mike Perry out. Obviously left Mike Perry's nose on his ear. And we're big Mike Perry fans, but what he did was insane. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson coming off a loss. Obviously, Anthony Pettis, Showtime, jumping off the cage, throwing the right hand counter, knocking out Wonderboy, which is the first time we've seen Wonderboy get knocked out. So that was huge. But how does Wonderboy come back from losses? Usually pretty well. Luque knockout, Lewis knockout, both devastating. I hope not, man. I'm a big Wonderboy guy. I hope he doesn't get knocked out. But I could very well see Derek Lewis knocking Ivanov out. That's not a non-possibility. I think his deficiencies are going to catch up to him. In this fight, though, we have a Wonderboy that's kind of fallen on some hard times. Obviously, the draw with Tyron Woodley, then the loss to Darren Till, and now recently the loss to Anthony Pettis. Wonderboy was long considered the number one contender at 170 for years. And a guy that it was so hard to beat, right? You either had to outpoint him like Tyron Woodley did, and I guess the same argument can be made for Darren Till, even though that fight was in London. But again, judges said he won the fight. He won the fight. That's long been considered the way to beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and I think Wonderboy himself has looked at himself and said, Vincent Wonderboy, looked at himself and said, I've got to be more aggressive. I've got to not let judges take fights from me because I'm being outpointed or I'm being too timid. And you saw him try to go out and do that in Anthony Pettis, and to that point in the fight, he's winning the fight. He's battering Anthony Pettis, busting him up, face is bloodied from Anthony. Wonderboy doing a good job staying on the lead leg, jab 1-2s, in and out, darting movement, and then all of a sudden he's not doing a good job. All of a sudden he's overextended with his front leg side kick, and he's getting knocked out with a right hand. I think he learns from that in this fight, though. Oh, meant to say, Wonderboy, got you. I think he learns in this fight, though. I think he learns not to overextend. I think he knows a guy like Vincent Luque is going to come throwing heavy, heavy shots. And when Vincent throws, he throws heavy shots. But it's not like he throws and gets too overextended. I've watched the last couple of his fights, and he throws big power, but somehow ends up right back on balance and right back in position, ready to go again. So it's a dangerous fight for Stephen Thompson. I think Luque could very well knock him cold out. But I think Wonderboy gets back to what we've seen from Wonderboy before: the quick in and out movement, the darting in shot, get out, the combinations followed by the devastating kicks up top, the misdirection, the switching of stance, the front leg side kick that keeps his distance, all that stuff. His point fighting, but with a little bit more aggressive tone to it, I think will be the difference. I do think it's a decision. I do think Wonderboy dominates the decision. I think he gets out really quickly in the first round and establishes a pace. I think he can switch his fight style very easily, especially switching stances and confusing his opponents with different kicks off different legs on different sides in different stances at different times. So I think he's very hard to prepare for, and I think a guy like Vincent Luque, while he has seen some very violent fighters, I don't know if he's seen the same speed and technique that Wonderboy brings to this fight. So we're going Wonderboy by decision. I think he dominates in the striking. I don't see a lot of grappling in this fight, guys. I don't know. This is probably going to be strictly a kickboxing fight. That's what we're going to see. And watch me be completely wrong and Luque shoots a double right off the rip. If he does that, take my money. I'd laugh my ass off if Luque just came out double leg. But I don't think we'll see that. I think we're going to get a lot of strikes and Stephen Thompson winning by decision. And then, good God, and then we get to our co-main event of the evening, and I've gone back and forth on this. They have Darren Till listed at 6 feet. He looks so much bigger than 6 feet anytime you see him, but I'll give him the 6 feet. So we have Darren Till, the Gorilla, Kelvin Gastelum. Oh my God. And again, I know the way that Kelvin can wrestle. He is a very talented wrestler. Doesn't seem to want to use it too much. Unless he's in trouble, he doesn't really want to use it. So I don't know how much grappling we're actually going to get in this fight. We could see Darren Till does really well in the clinch. I think he's really strong in the clinch. So we could see some clinches. Kelvin's obviously really good on the break from the clinch. He throws a lot of good shots, especially his boxing out of breaks. But Kelvin, obviously very boxing-based in his most recent fights. Again, great wrestling background, and he has that tool. But he loves to box. I don't even think he really tends to box more than he kickboxes. I think he likes to stand up and throw his hands, and he's great at it. He's got good timing. His ability to slip at that division where he's a lot faster than guys, and he takes them by surprise, is almost in his benefit to be a little smaller. I don't want to say like Kelvin Gastelum's a big dude, but his ability to speed up on his opponents and his head movement and his pull, left hands or his jab, his pull right hand, whatever it is, when he can make you miss and then come back with a combination, even if he's reaching, he's so fast, he can do it, take a shot with that huge head he has and get out. And we saw that in the Israel Adesanya fight. He took some shots from Israel, but he also let go some bombs on Israel as well, and it worked out for him in a couple of those rounds, and it made that fight as close as it was. Guys, don't forget that is a fight of the year contender and a round of the year contender. So to act like Kelvin wasn't one round away from winning that title is insane to me. So, and that's the hardest fight Israel's had in his MMA career, was that Kelvin Gastelum fight. And then he had Darren Till. A lot of questions about Darren Till moving up. And again, I say this a lot, but if you guys are big W.A.D.E concept fans and you've been here for a long time, Go back and watch when before Darren Till was starching Cowboy. We were Darren Till fans. But there are some questions here. First off, Darren Till just got to New York today. What that means is he's got 1 day to cut that weight. And I don't know where his weight is, but he didn't get the entire fight week to progressively get that weight to, 185. And I know he's moving up in weight, but still makes a difference when you have 1 day to cut weight because you have visa issues. That's a big difference. He is in New York, but he just got there today, so hopefully that's not going to have any factor on the fight. But again, it's another question mark. Another question mark, Darren Till's first fight at 185, coming off a pretty devastating knockout loss. A fight that Dana White came out and said, I told Till not to take. So a lot of stuff leading into this fight that makes you question, is this the right time for Darren Till to make this move? We all wanted him to come to 85, but against Kelvin's ranked number 4, but most people consider Kelvin either to be the number 1 contender, number 2, 3, in that range right there with Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa. Those are the guys, right? I mean, obviously Robert Whittaker is the number 1 guy in my opinion. I think he is right there. He beats everybody outside of maybe Kelvin Gastelum. We haven't seen that fight. I'd like to see it. But Kelvin's right there. So Darren Till is taking a huge risk coming up. Kyle says Till knockout in round 2. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. Darren Till does love to put his hands a little lower and kind of play with his hands. And he telegraphs a little bit of when he's coming forward. And his defense, especially against Jorge and Tyron Woodley, his hands were kind of out and down as he's fighting. He's trying to grab. But guys that have huge power or can just throw overhand shots and cross the guard or even break the guard with those overhand shots. And Kelvin's got power at that division. That's bad news. Darren Till's 2 losses are to guys that have shorter reach than him, that have caught him with big shots. Kelvin Gastelum loves to box. Darren Till is going to stand in there and box with him. As much, again, this is that card. I think it's a little bit of reverse psychology from your boy because I want Darren Till to win this fight. I am a big Darren Till fan. I want him to win a championship one day, but I have to go with Kelvin. I have to go with Kelvin Gastelum. I think his skills, and especially at that weight class, they carry over so much better. He is fast, and Darren Till, all we have to go on from Darren Till is our previous, our what have you done for me lately? What we saw of him last. In his last 2 fights, we saw deficiencies in his defense. We saw flat-footedness in his defense, and we saw hands that were lower than they should be at the point of contact. We didn't know. I think him getting caught and getting flatlined like that is more of a testament to the weight class. I don't think he takes shots badly. I think it's just one of those things where you dehydrate yourself. That's going to happen. But I think that Kelvin Gastelum baits a lot of guys into overextending because he is a little bit shorter and his reach is a little shorter, and taller guys love to come forward on him, and he baits it in and pull left hand. He's right there. Or he surprises a guy like Israel Adesanya by getting right in his grill, getting inside of long shots, and throwing big power. Whether it's one shot or a combination, Kelvin Gastelum has power in those shots. And if it comes to it, Kelvin Gastelum can wrestle. And at 85, these guys are a lot stronger than the guys at 170. And while Darren Till was getting up off the ground from guys in 170 when they were taking him down, this is a different weight class, and Kelvin Gastelum is a great wrestler. So if it happens to go into some sort of grappling exchange, I think Kelvin Gastelum would be able to, if not get Darren Till to the ground, at least control in a dominant position to where he can land some shots in the clinch and then exit throwing big power and getting back to his spots. Kyle says, I think he will look to counter Gastelum's overhand left. Kelvin has trouble with southpaw. Darren loves to fight them. Very well could happen. Kelvin does throw some wild shots with that left hand, especially when he is out of range. It happened in the Israel fight. Israel caught him a couple times when he was throwing some overhand and some big looping hooks. Woodley didn't take Till down, that's true, but he didn't have to. That fight was so short, he didn't really have to. There was, I think, 1 or 2 attempts early in that fight But you're talking about a 5-round fight. If that fight goes 5 rounds and Woodley didn't take Till down, I would have been surprised. Till is a different animal, though. I don't even think it's easy to compare Till to Kelvin Gastelum's grappling style. Till can run forward, blast a double, and put you on your back in a heartbeat. Just athleticism, pure explosiveness. I don't think Kelvin's takedown ability is that powerful and explosive and quick. I do think that his control and his patience in those positions could be a factor in the fight. I think that he's not afraid to clinch or hold Darren Till against the fence to get into a position that's advantageous for his reach and for his striking inside. Some body shots, coming back to the head, breaking, then throwing the straight left, all that stuff. But I do think Kelvin Gastelum gets a victory. Ooh. I don't know, man. I don't want to say he knocks Darren Till out. We'll say Kelvin Gastelum gets a victory. Yeah, I don't think Kelvin wins a decision, so he's got a TKO him. I don't think Kelvin beats Darren in a decision. So I think if he's going to beat Darren Till, and because they're so it's the question mark things that get me, guys. That's the only thing, okay? That's what's making me pause here on picking Darren Till, and I want to. I think Kelvin Gastelum by TKO over Darren Till, and it's a rough start to 185 for Till. I hope that's not the case. Darren, if you're watching, big ups to you, my man. You're the gorilla killer, the vanilla gorilla, all that good stuff. I want you to win. I just don't know if it's in the cards for this fight. And finally, oh my God. We're here, guys. We're here. We're talking about, as you can see, he will be calling out the doubters. Don't be surprised. Hey, Kyle, look, it's between me and you. Let's keep this on the low, man. Let's keep this on the low. I ain't doubting Darren Till. I ain't doubting him, all right? It's between me and you. If he comes calling, if he comes looking, you got my back. I'm just the referee. You know what I'm saying? I'm impartial. I'm unbiased. I was here to protect everybody in all confrontations, okay? You didn't see nothing. Anyway, we have our main event of the evening and quite possibly the best fight on paper for a couple of reasons. For the timing of it. Jorge Masvidal is white hot, coming off devastating knockouts of Darren Till and the fastest knockout in UFC history over Ben Askren. Nate Diaz coming off of a victory over Anthony Pettis in a fight that was, we waited on Nate Diaz for 3 years and he delivered. He came out of 3 years retirement or absence or some sort of layoff that he had and came back and showed us that it didn't make a difference. It didn't make one damn difference. And Nate Diaz still is that West Coast gangster. So, and not only that, and then you have the call out of Jorge Masvidal, the beautiful press conference in New York, Jorge wearing the Scarface. They got the parental advisory posters. Marketing was done so well for this fight, and we're finally here. You couldn't write a story as good as this one because it is so organic, because it is East Coast, West Coast, because of the USADA deal. You can't write this stuff. This is, and Kyle used the perfect word, this is going to be a classic. This is going to be one of those fights that we talk about for years. Now, I'm not going to say that it's tough to go against that Israel Kelvin fight. That might win fight of the year, but this is going to be up there. And this is not only the fight, but the event leading up to it, the post-event, all of it. We're going to talk about this for years. This will go down in history. And if it goes 5 rounds, if it goes the distance, I'd be surprised if Nate Diaz doesn't win this fight if it goes the distance. Now, that being said, I'm going to shock some people here. Nate Diaz, never been finished. Or I think he's been finished by, I think it was like 1 head kick and then TKO head kick. Never been put out, right? Nate Diaz, a guy that just seems to have that ability to take shots and keep moving forward on you, to take your best stuff, figure out a way I don't even know if it's figuring out a way. I think it's just pushing forward through everything you got until you're tired and he's not. And then when it seems like you've given everything and he's still been in your face and you have nothing left, it seems like he gains some sort of energy boost that goes up to 200%, and it's a tidal wave, and he just pushes it and it slams on you and you have nothing to give, and he's just coming and coming, and it's over. So Nate Diaz has a way to win fights. It's, I'm going to be here in your face. I'm going to make you frustrated. You're going to get tired. I'm not. I'm going to come, especially over 5 rounds, I'm going to come back and win the fight. That's the Diaz recipe. Push, 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 push. Okay, you're tired. Now turn it up. That's the recipe. No one's ever touched Nate on his chin and put him out. Conor put him down 3 times, but let's be honest, Conor McGregor is not the size of a human being that Nate Diaz is. Nate is a 195-pound guy, 195-pound guy. Stocky build, right? Yeah, he's a little lanky, but he can carry that 195 pretty well at 6'1". Jorge Masvidal has knocked out big-ass dudes. Possesses some power in those punches, explosive power, and it doesn't tail off after round 1 or 2. Jorge's been in fights where he's lost split decisions that are razor thin, and he's been there. In all those fights, he's been there in that 3rd round, being the aggressor, trying to push that pace, coming forward. It's not like we've seen Jorge with his hands on his hips, bending down, breathing super hard, trying to gasp for air. Now, granted, over 5 rounds could be a different story, as Kyle is saying. Kyle says Jorge wins round 1, Diaz 2, Masvidal 3, and Diaz takes the last 2. Or Jorge scores a knockout bigger than the Ben Askren knockout. I don't know if anything will ever be in that moment bigger than the Ben Askren knockout, in that, how fast it was, but I think that Jorge Masvidal is on the verge of something very special here. And Nate Diaz is set, regardless if he wins or loses this fight. Now, if he wins this fight, the Conor McGregor trilogy couldn't be bigger. That's the fight, by the way. If Nate Diaz wins this fight, he could give a shit about the title fight. The Conor McGregor trilogy is going to be there. Regardless if Conor wins his next fight, that's the fight. Jorge Masvidal is fighting to get to that belt. If Jorge wins this fight, it's going to be by stopping Nate Diaz. Plain and simple. And I think he gets it done. Hear me out. Nate Diaz, long layoff, didn't really get touched too badly in that first fight against Anthony Pettis. Jorge Masvidal said something in his media workout thing the other day that really caught my attention, and it caught my attention because it makes sense. Not a lot of people fight Nate to take advantage of his ability to take shots, right? Like Conor McGregor just came out firing on Nate, put him down a couple times, and survived the last round. Jorge Masvidal said Nate is got such a big heart that it's almost his stubbornness is his weakness. It's what's going to lead to my victory. Basically saying Nate's going to eat shots so much that I'm going to put something on him he can't eat. It's a bold statement, but I don't think he means it in the fact that he has such power that Nate's just going to withstand all that power early and then come back late. I think what Jorge's saying is Nate's so stubborn that Nate thinks Jorge will get tired. I think he thinks that Nate thinks he's going to get tired quickly and just eat those shots, but Jorge's saying, cool, eat those shots, but those same shots you get in the first round are the same ones that are going to be there in the 5th. And at some point, you're going to fall because the power level is not going to taper off at all, or the striking speed or amount isn't going to taper off. So I think Jorge's coming out and saying, look, I'm not going to throw big power early, but I'm going to throw it consistently over 5 rounds, and at some point I'm putting you down. And I think he does, man. I think he does. And Kyle is right on the spot. He said that would shatter all MMA Reddit, message boards, Twitter, everything. I think it would shatter everyone's brains, and that's kind of what this thing is, right? This is the BMF title. This is what we're tuning in for, is to be entertained on a level we haven't been entertained on. This is a spectacle. The Rock coming in with the title. Dana White making a title specifically for this. MSG, New York City. Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz both rise to the occasion. It is a back-and-forth war, and Jorge Masvidal stops him. In the 5th round, stops him. TKO, KO, I don't know, but that's what I'm going with. Hey, 305. Originally, I'm from Tennessee. It's East Side till I die, man. East Side to B Side. I know I'm in enemy territory here, and AJ's gonna come over and you know what I'm saying, Stockton slap your boy. But listen, it is what it is, man. As Max Holloway would say, it is what it is. The fans win. Dana wins, as Kyle does in the chat. We all win. But I do think Jorge comes away with that BMF title. 5th round KO, TKO, I'm not sure, but I do think he gets the stoppage. Hey, and Jorge's got, you know what I'm saying, Jorge is a great jiu-jitsu practitioner too. He's got submissions. Not saying that he's going to go and submit Nate Diaz, but I think he can protect himself. Because Nate Diaz could very well get on top, sink a choke in, and this whole thing could be over before it starts. But I think Jorge does have enough. I mean, he lasted 3 rounds with Damian Maia on his back, so I think he'll be okay. But this is going to be a one for the ages. Not only this fight, but this card in general is one for the ages, guys. Like I said, we're truly in a rarefied air here with these next 2 cards, and it feels good to have variety in MMA again. It feels good to have a guy like Jorge Masvidal, who everybody that you talk to said this guy, you know, he was one of the best in MMA. He was one of the best fighters in that division and multiple divisions. At 170, 155, he was good. He was top 10, top 5, and just never could get over that hump. Never could. The fights he needed to win, he would lose by split decision. He was fighting guys that, you know, on lower ranks on cards, you never thought he would be a main eventer or get a title shot. And here he is. 1 year, and here he is. Variety. It's not just the Conor McGregor show. And you guys know I'm a big Conor guy, but variety in MMA is good for us all. And this is going to take that to the next level. I can't wait, guys. I can't wait. I'd like to see that fight too. And we very well could get that fight too, Kyle. Conor and Jorge. If Jorge wins this fight, you could see Jorge, you know, depending on what happens with that Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington fight. I would pay to see Colby and Jorge almost more than I would pay Jorge and Conor. I mean, that fight, again, another organic, you can't write this stuff story. If you guys heard Jorge talk about Colby today in the media days, I mean, it's gold. It's gold, and it's gold because it's genuine. It's authentic. It's what he really feels about Colby Covington. I would pay if you know, the stars align that way, and MMA gods, as we know, they never give us what we want exactly. But if that happens to align that way, Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington, you can take my money right now. But we'll get there when we get there. Right now, let's not overlook a single fight on this card. There's 7 fight of the night contenders on this card. There's more than you can count performance of the night contenders. I mean, we have so many guys that hit the sleep button, and the other guy hits the snooze button, as Jorge would say. We have all that on this card and more. Saturday, what time are the prelims? Let's look here. Let's go back to full screen. There we are. Saturday at, I think it's 4 p.m. Pacific or when the early prelims are. Let's check, though. Let's make sure. Let's make sure here. I'm just going through all these fights. Look at these freaking fights, man. All right. Early prelims, 3:30. Okay, so 3:30, early prelims. We are going to be streaming these live from Hall Pass Studios, which is, again, thank you to Hall Pass for allowing me to use the facility, a world-class facility. And again, we will talk about that on the stream as we're going through the fights and kind of what I do with them and what it is that they allow me to use their premises for. So we'll talk about all that then. Happy Halloween to everybody. I hope you guys had a safe and fun night. Got some trick-or-treaters that came over, or you guys went and trick-or-treated. Make sure you check your candy, by the way. That was something, I don't know if they still do that, but when I was growing up, we always had to check our candy. Like I said, it's a crazy world, guys. You never know what people are up to. Check your candy for your kids or your friends or family. Make sure that no one's got some craziness going on in there. But again, hope you guys had fun. This is referee Wade here at the Wade Concept, keeping you safe, making sure all parties know the rules. Because again, We got to keep it clean. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you Saturday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time from Hall Pass Studios. We are going to stream the entire UFC 244 card. Thank you, Kyle, to being in here. Kelsey, I saw you pop in. The Deets himself, AJ, I appreciate it. I will see you all next time. Until then, you already know. It's the W.A.D.E concept, and this is spooky hours here, but we still stay doing the same thing. We are debating everything. Take it easy, everyone.